The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions, and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Good evening, everybody. It is Monday night right here on Armed Radio. You are listening to Two Beards Talking. I am Daniel Sanders.
And I'm DonnieJ. And Daniel can't count.
I use that Alabama math. I used that Alabama math.
Okay.
So, just a precursor, just a warning to everybody. Donnie does have the munchies this evening. I don't think he's been smoking anything. If he did and didn't share it, then,
I can neither confirm nor deny those allegations.
We're going to have to go back to the kindergarten days of...
Why didn't you share with the classroom?
Yeah.
I can neither confirm nor deny those allegations. Anyway.
Excuse me. So, yeah, as we do at the start of every show... we want to give a big shout-out to the troops out there, men and women serving overseas and on the home front. We appreciate everything y'all are doing. Keep up the good work and come home safe. We're all rooting for you here back home.
Absolutely.
Sports.
Yes.
Sports.
Last we spoke, there was about to be a national championship.
There was about to be a national championship.
And there is a national champion now.
Yes, the good old LSU Tigers and head coach Farmer John. I remember the days when he was an assistant for the Mud Dogs.
And he's the only SEC coach who needs subtitles underneath him when he gives a press conference. Oh God, don't Tigers. Okay, all right. Well, thanks, Coach. We appreciate that. Yeah, but the results, the proof's in the pudding, and it was funny because the first quarter, I thought Clemson actually had a chance. And they looked good, and they had a lead for a moment. Well, and it's like all of a sudden somebody nudged Joe Burrow and said, "Bro, you're in a national championship game." He's like, "Oh, I thought it was scrimmage." Well, hell, I guess maybe I need to play some football. And after that, it was over.
Well, what it is, so I didn't actually watch the game. I didn't have the opportunity to watch the game, but I did hear about it after it was over with. And Clemson linebacker James Skalski, he was ejected in the third quarter for targeting. It was my understanding he was lighting Joe Burrow up all night long. And you could tell Joe Burrow was rattled because of this guy. Because as soon as this guy got ejected from the game,
Burrow suddenly
he was himself again.
Right, because he knew that the threat wasn't there. And,
exactly.
and it was definitely a threat. And here's the thing. It brings me back to something that I came to know several years ago. Dick Butkus.
Yeah.
And Dick Butkus said that back in the day they would get in the huddle, and one of the great quarterbacks, I don't know if this is first-hand or second-hand knowledge, one of the great quarterbacks, Johnny Unitas, would lean down in the huddle, and he would look around, and he wouldn't say a word except number 72. Hit, break, and that was it. And the unspoken word was, this guy has to go.
Yep.
And in one, maybe two plays, suddenly this guy's carted off the field because he got hit really, really, really hard by 300-plus pound linemen. And he's not playing in the game anymore. And Johnny went on to do his deal. And I think, I don't know, that's probably not what transpired. That's not what transpired. But the point is, a little bit of old school went into that because afterwards, Burrows came to life. It's like he woke up and said, okay, now I can play some ball. Now I can get some things done. And he did. He was phenomenal. I hate LSU, but I got to say the team rolled, and Burrow was he was phenomenal.
Yeah. So this is the first time since Jameis Winston. This is the first time since Jameis Winston in Florida State. Player that won the Heisman Trophy was part of the national championship team in the same year.
And no crab legs were involved.
Yes, no crab legs and no computers, Cam Newton.
I'm proud of you for saying that.
I mean, hey, I'm not biased.
I'm very proud of you for saying that.
Even though I took classes at Auburn,
No Dell computers or crab legs were harmed in the making of this national championship. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Oh man! And now the NFL. So yesterday we just had the conference championships played.
Right, and I'm really I'm disappointed in the Tennessee Titans simply because of being a Crimson Tide fan. I wanted King Henry, if you will, to get a championship ring.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a couple from Alabama. I think he needs another one. This one with the NFL, and he has been breaking records and running all over people, but they shut him down.
Oh yeah, and I too was pulling for the Titans rather, but more so because of the fact I believe this is the first Super Bowl appearance they would have made since they lost on the 1 yard line back in 99, 2000 round.
I would rather lose. I would rather come up short by 10 yards, by 15, by 20 yards, but 1 yard.
1 yard.
You have to live with that
3
the rest
feet.
of your life. You have nightmares. I would bet anything that the players have nightmares about that 1 yard line for the rest of their life.
36 inches.
I mean, and I would have loved to have seen them redeem themselves, but I think it's going to happen. I mean, if you look at the year that King Henry had this year, I mean, next year it's going to be better.
Well, I agree and I disagree, and the reason why I disagree is the NFL is not like college. You can't have a Cam Newton-led Auburn and win It's not one player carrying the entire team. In the NFL, it has to be the entire team,
right? Exactly,
working together on all cylinders.
Well, we've seen it in the NCAA as well. You really can't have one player carry the entire team. Tua Tagovailoa carried the team, but they depended on him a whole lot. And when he was gone, Mac Jones stepped up to the plate, but it just there was just extenuating circumstances and factors that was beyond his control that he just was not as equipped as Tua was to deal with them. And now we'll never know what would have happened because Tua's going pro.
Well, I mean, again, I say in the NCAA, you can have instances where one player carries the whole team. I mean, Auburn Tigers, Cam Newton.
Right, exactly. My favorite, I saw this on Facebook. It wasn't a meme, but it was the truth. It was like, okay, it was more or less towards Clemson, and y'all lost by X amount of points, and I only lost by 5 points to them, and that was with a one-leg quarterback and half of my defensive, unit gone. So, I mean, you can look at it one way, you can look at it another way. The Bama haters will say,
had Clemson's linebacker not been ejected from the game, I mean, it's all you always get that, what if, woulda, coulda, shoulda, all that stuff. Had Skalski not been ejected from the game, I still think LSU would have won, but instead of it being, almost a 20-point difference,
right?
I think we would have been looking at a 3-point game.
There would be more bookies alive today than there are now if that happens. God rest their souls.
Oh man, but So back to the NFL.
So the Chiefs. What do you think about the Chiefs?
Well, this is, if I'm not mistaken, and if I'm wrong on this, you call me out on it. Go on our Facebook page.
You're wrong. I'm sorry, I jumped the gun there. My bad.
The listeners. If the listeners.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me. Sorry.
No, if I'm wrong on this, go on the Facebook page and call me out on it. But I believe this is the first time Kansas City has appeared in a Super Bowl since they won in 1970 in Super Bowl IV. Yeah. 1970, I believe, was the last time they appeared. So, both of them, Titans and the Chiefs, both of them really had something worth fighting for. Sorry, he is like I said, he's got the munchies, so he's enjoying and contemplating his next words. But now on the other side of it, we had the 49ers and the Packers play today, and I don't really know that I'd say played. Like I don't even think the Packers showed up for that one.
Well, I saw some posts that said Aaron Rodgers was, he's past his prime, and I think that's the biggest BS I've ever heard in my life. Aaron Rodgers is still a phenomenal quarterback.
Absolutely.
And I would not be surprised to see him back here next year and going further. I think he's got another Super Bowl in him. And age is nothing but a number. Of course, in the NFL, that's a little bit different. You can take that differently. But I really think Aaron Rodgers was given wasn't given a fair shake today. A lot of nasty tweets I saw.
Yeah. Yep. So, Super Bowl is scheduled for February 2nd of this year to be played at the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida, home of the Miami Dolphins.
You had to say that, didn't you?
Weren't you pulling for the Dolphins?
Stop. You had to go there. We couldn't get through a broadcast without you rubbing it in that I'm a Dolphins fan.
I wasn't rubbing anything in.
Yes.
I was just making the comment that
here's the thing. Now, and mark my word. This year, okay, is it Cleveland or is it Cincinnati is going to get Joe Burrow? All right. One of those two crappy, shitty teams is getting Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line there, Miami is getting a good quarterback. Will it be Tua? Will it be Tua? Will it be Jalen? Who could it be?
You hope.
I hope. I'm pretty sure that they've got enough leverage, enough money that they can trade up if they need to. They can get like a second or third round. I'm pretty sure that they can. I mean, we all know.
Well, I think Miami is high enough in the pickings that they could even get a first round. However,
well, that last game, okay, if they had lost the last game to New England, it would improve their chances, but it's just not in them to lose to New England because they fucking hate New England so much. And I understand that, and I'm right there with them. I can't stand New England either. So they had to win, and if they don't get a great quarterback, the quarterback that they've got right now has done a phenomenal job. He's a veteran, and I think they could do a lot worse than trading a vet for an unknown, unless that unknown's name is Tua Tagovailoa or Jalen Hurts, in which case I think we need to get them down there.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens for sure. So, but yeah, I'm looking. I don't really follow the NFL all that much, especially not during regular season. Super Bowl, I definitely do enjoy watching the Super Bowl, mostly because of the advertisements.
So you watch you don't follow NFL until the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Isn't that a little bit late, you think?
No, not
really.
Maybe
you might ought to catch a game or two in the regular season? I don't know. Just a thought.
No. Because like I said, most of the reason why I watch the Super Bowl is
the damn
for the
commercials.
advertisements. Yeah. And, maybe I'll get to see Janet Jackson's titty again.
Hope springs eternal for Daniel. Yes. Okay. Well, if you got to watch the Super Bowl for a reason, I guess there's worse than that. But I'm waiting for the days when the Dolphins get in there, and I don't think it's that far off. I think some wonderful and surprising things are going to happen next year, depending on who we get in the draft. If we get screwed in the draft, or if we actually get a great draft pick, everything can't depend on the quarterback. You got to have an offensive line, you got to have defense, you got to have all kinds of different things. That said, we could really use Jalen Hurts down in Miami. That's just my take on things. There's my take on sports.
Maybe the coaches hear you. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I'm not counting on that.
Excuse me. Okay, so
comedy.
Yes, comedy. This next topic, some of our listeners, this is just a disclaimer, some of our listeners may find this next topic offensive. And if you do find it offensive,
fuck you.
Yes, first off, fuck you if you find it offensive. And then if you decide to lodge a complaint or rant about it all you want, you're just going to further validate our point.
Exactly. The point is this. If either everything is offensive or nothing is offensive, okay, we live in a politically correct society with SJWs, social justice warriors.
Yes.
Snowflakes that find everything in the world offensive and have to find safe places for words that hurt. And this is coming from a liberal. Yes, I am a liberal. I am a former Democrat turned independent turned I don't really know what the hell I am. I'm just voting for the right person for the right job. But I will say this, Blazing Saddles is a phenomenal, hilariously funny movie.
Yes, it is. It is one of my all-time favorite Mel Brooks films. Mel Brooks, I don't care who you are. Mel Brooks is a comedic fucking genius.
Yes, yeah. I mean, if you look at Mel Brooks long enough, you're going to start laughing for some reason. You're going to think of something he did or something he said, and you're going to start laughing. And that kind of hilarity, that's natural. I mean, he's phenomenal.
Yes. So the movie came out in 1974. Mm-hmm. In February of this year, it will be turning 46 years old. And it's still a classic. Couldn't be made today.
No, and that's the thing. That's what we're going to deal with today. It's a movie that could not. You couldn't find. Number one, you couldn't find a studio that would back it.
Number two, you couldn't find actors that would be in it.
Three, there's no producer that would want to produce it.
Yeah.
So you'd have some screenwriter that somebody thought he's either perpetually on drugs, he's stoned. Something is wrong with this guy to think that somebody in Hollywood today would produce, would act in, or would make the film. But the sad thing is, it was the funniest movie ever back in its day.
Yes, and.
I'm going to read. Here's an excerpt. Okay, I'm going to read this. Everybody read. Well, not everybody, but if you read the Hollywood Reporter, big. I'm going to say tabloid. It's a trade industry magazine, but the Hollywood Reporter gives lots of reviews on various movies, films, whatever. They still do today. Still relevant today. All right. They republished their original review of Blazing Saddles. Okay, and here's what they said. The screenplay by Brooks, Norman Steinberg, Andrew Bergman, Richard Pryor, there we go, and Alan Unger, from a story by Bergman, is totally irreverent, never passing up a chance to point up a cliche and sparing nothing or no one along the way. Let me say that again. Sparing nothing or no one along the way. The language is definitely R-rated. This is, of course, many years ago. The language is definitely R-rated, but it never becomes offensive. In fact, the incongruous pairing of the language and the characters accounts for a great deal of the boisterous humor. Brooks's fast-paced direction is a masterpiece of comedy detail, filled with delightful and perfectly timed sight gags. The predominant style is one of the extremely broad burlesque, but the film is also packed with more subtle touches, especially in Maury Hoffman's clever set decoration and Peter Woolley's production design. Okay, now that's kind of highbrow, but the bottom line is this. His shit was phenomenal, and it was perfect. It was perfectly timed, perfectly executed, well written, and everything had. There were so many Easter eggs. There were so many little things. You have to watch it over and over again to see stuff, and you're like, "Oh my God, I never saw that before." Mm-hmm. And it's little things that people today would find offensive. And I watch it, and I still laugh my ass off.
Absolutely. I think back to it, and it's all the things from when Clavon Little, who plays the
sheriff,
lead, the sheriff. Excuse me. He's riding into Rock Ridge, and the old prospector character is up on top of the building, mm-hmm. and every time. He turns around and shouts out to the townspeople who are all waiting on him. The sheriff is, and then the bell rings.
Mm-hmm. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, exactly.
What did he say? He said the sheriff is near.
Ding, ding, ding. Exactly.
He said the sheriff is near. No, I said the doggone sheriff is a bear.
Yeah, exactly. And it's this hilarity, and it keeps on, but then finally it breaks down, and they actually say it.
Yeah,
and it's hilarious.
Yeah, he's riding into town, and the town spokesman, he's up on stage, and he's reading off of his script, and he says, "We extend a laurel and hearty handshake to our new nigger."
And Cleavon Little smiles a big smile. Well, I appreciate it. And here's the thing. Today, you could not find anyone that would make this movie.
No, you couldn't.
Because we have evolved socially.
The
bullshit. We haven't evolved socially. We take offense at everything today.
We do. And, now, first off, you have to look at who helped write the screenplay for this movie.
Richard Pryor.
Oh,
my God.
I mean,
there was never a greater comedic genius. You can't list a comedian today that will not cite Richard Pryor as one of his influences.
Yes.
There's not one out there.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And, like you said earlier, Andrew Bergman, Richard Pryor, all of these writers got together and collaborated on this film. And then they put together an all-star cast with Cleavon Little, Gene Wilder, Madeline Kahn, Dom DeLuise. You had all of Slim Pickens.
Mm-hmm. John Hillerman, who played Higgins in Magnum P.I.,
yes.
There is a long list of stars that were stars and some who would become stars later on. I mean, ethnic jokes abound. There's enough juvenile sexual humor to keep 1,000 generations of pubescent kids entertained. And it has the most famous, most iconic fart scene ever in any movie.
Yes.
I mean, the bean scene where they're and they're farting around the campfire, and someone says, "I'd like some more beans," and the guy goes, "I think you've had enough damn beans." I mean, it's hilarious, but today it would offend somebody. People would protest. It would never get shown at a movie theater because you could never get past the damn picket lines.
When Hedley Lamar is,
I'm so tired.
when Hedley Lamar is, he's recruiting all of these scumbags to invade Rock Ridge. You've got, aside from the bikers and the Mexican murderers and all of these guys, what did Gene Wilder and Cleavon Little disguise themselves as? KKK members.
Yes, exactly. Klansmen. And here's the funny thing about that. As I said earlier, they offend everyone. Yes. Nobody is spared. Also, it doesn't matter, black, white, Jewish, Mexican. They don't care.
Also in line there were German troops from World War II.
Yes. They lampoon racism. They lampoon neo-Nazis. And they do it brilliantly. I mean, there's from one era, the majority of the population wasn't back then. The people who watched this movie was not, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to catch hell from people, and I don't give a shit. Here's how I look at it. It was not targeted. It wasn't marketed towards a group of people who were constantly seeking to be aggrieved. Yes. Because the people that watched this movie didn't find offense with everything. They didn't find every word offensive. They didn't kneel for the national anthem. They didn't think that they didn't find everything morally offensive, and they didn't protest everything. People had a sense of humor back then.
Yeah.
And it's gone now. In the age of political correctness has pretty much fucking destroyed comedy. Mm-hmm. One of my favorites, Dave Chappelle. Yes. Dave Chappelle, he walked away from comedy for so long, and one of the reasons, unstated but stated kind of, one of the reasons he walked away is because he couldn't be funny anymore. He had to be worried about being politically correct to the social justice warriors.
Yeah. I don't remember which stand-up it was, but he was actually talking about that from the Chappelle Show. Mm-hmm. He went into the producer's office one day, and they were talking about his script and the skit that he had coming up, and they were concerned about his use of the word faggot in the show.
All right.
And Dave's response pretty much was like, "Wait. Now in this script for this 30-minute show, I say the N-word probably 40 times. I'm saying faggot once, and y'all have a problem with it."
Right. But you social justice warriors didn't have a problem with me saying the N-word.
Yeah.
It's only when it applies to you. Now, I hear cracker all the time. I'm white. And you know what? Whatever. It doesn't bother me. I don't care. If it's done in an offensive context, if you're doing it to offend me, then I'll respond in kind, and you might not like my response.
Absolutely.
But if you're doing it to be funny, if you're doing it to make a point, I'll laugh right along with you.
And here's the other thing. I'm going to take the opportunity for a quick history lesson here. The term cracker, as most of us are aware, referred to the individual who was cracking the whip.
Mm-hmm. Right, not white saltine cracker like most people think.
Or Ritz.
Right.
I'm a tasty motherfucker.
I'm salty. Hey,
But no, it referred to the person.
Exactly.
And I won't say 9 times, maybe 7 times out of 10, the person cracking the whip used to be a slave.
Mm-hmm. They were called overseers. They were called overseers.
Yeah.
And here's the funny thing. There's a lot of I've never mentioned this on the show, but I was speaking to a class several years ago that I was doing a substitute teaching stint for, and we were talking about symbols of racism and symbols of oppression rather, and I singled out, and he didn't get offended, and I didn't get in trouble. I singled out a gay student in the class. He had a T-shirt on that proudly displayed a pink triangle. And I said, well, your shirt right there, do you have any idea where the origins come from? He goes, it's a solidarity symbol. It stands for, supporting gay people. I said, well, you're partially correct, but do you know where it originated from? Well, No, you don't. Let me educate you. Back in Hitler's Germany, it wasn't just Jews that were persecuted. All kinds of people were persecuted. Mm-hmm. Intellectuals were persecuted. Everybody had a star or designation of their own because Hitler didn't want intellectuals. Intellectuals could think their way out of problems, and they could come up with a solution, and they could defeat him.
Yep.
Hitler didn't want, he didn't want people who were really strong, really, athlete. He didn't want those people either. They could overthrow his regime. Mm-hmm. He wanted docile people. He didn't want anyone who was sick because they were of no use to them. You got to take care of them. He didn't want anyone infirm, anyone crippled. They got sent to the gas chambers. And he didn't like sexual deviants, those people being homosexuals, gay and lesbian. And so where Jewish people wore the Star of David, other people wore different designations. Homosexuals wore a pink triangle. And when I told this to the student, the look on his face was abject horror. And I said, you did not know that you were wearing a symbol from Hitler's Nazi Germany, did you? I said, be proud. It's a symbol of oppression, and it's a symbol of the ability to overcome, because the fact that you're wearing that symbol today as a symbol of solidarity for homosexuality and for gay people everywhere, it's a testament to the resiliency of gays to overcome.
Right.
However, you need to, whenever you put on a symbol, whenever you decide to adopt something as your own, you need to understand from where it came, and that came from Hitler's Germany. Yeah. And the look on his face was just priceless. But I digress. We went history there for a second. Blazing Saddles. When everything is offensive, nothing's offensive.
Yeah,
and that's the beauty of the movie. Everybody gets a shot taken at him.
He attacked African Americans. He attacked whites. He attacked Jews. He attacked homosexuals.
I mean, and the thing is, a humorless society that seeks to make words criminally offensive is a society that's in decline. I mean, it really is, because we've gotten to the point where we used to be able to laugh at ourselves. We can't even do that anymore.
Yeah.
We can't laugh at our fellow man, because that might be offensive. That might hurt someone. That might offend someone, because words hurt. And we need a safe space, but when we try to make words criminally offensive, the whole society's declining. And here's the thing. we've gone from a society capable of creating and supporting something as beautiful and masterful as Blazing Saddles, and there's going to be people out there that are going to think I'm an idiot. They're going to crucify you and me. They're going to say we're stupid, we're drunk, we're terrible, we have no morals, we're racist, we're whatever. But the thing is this: Blazing Saddles was a success at the box office. It was masterful. It's filled with humorless. Today there are people who would protest it to death before it could ever get released in a movie theater, and that's a sad commentary on where our society has devolved.
Yeah, well, to further, I guess to further drive the message home as to how important this film is. It says right here, in 2006, Blazing Saddles was deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the Library of Congress and was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry.
Yes, and that says it all.
Yeah,
that says it all. There are a lot of films. There are a lot of films that are culturally significant. I think Blazing Saddles. I think what would be really beautiful. You know how theaters are sometimes bringing back, like they'll have a night where they'll play Casablanca, or they'll have a night where they'll play, this movie. I would love to see just how many people would show up to or protest a viewing of Blazing Saddles.
Well, here's the thing about it. The people that would show up to protest Blazing Saddles have never seen Blazing Saddles, so they don't know what they would be protesting.
They have no idea. They'd watch it and go, oh, that's so terrible. There we go. There's racism. There's sexism. Whatever. But they would hate it. I know. I just did it. I did that. Did I just do that? Yeah, I did.
Well, here's the thing about it.
But they really would. And the thing is this. It makes fun of everybody. No one is spared. So if you're making fun of everybody, then nobody should be offended.
Well, here's the thing about it. If we get any complaints, I don't think it's going to be from the language that was used or the accents which were spoken with. I think if we get any complaints, it's going to be from somebody who loves Monty Python more than they love Mel Brooks. And
just but the scratch. Yes. Comedy is it's evolved in some ways and it's devolved in some ways.
It has.
And I think we owe it to ourselves as a society to quit taking offense at every damn thing that comes along. Just lighten the fuck up, and I think we'd be less tense. I think there'd be less problems, less trouble if we would just lighten up a little bit.
Well, I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. He's a British stand-up comedian.
Billy Connolly.
No, it's not Billy Connolly.
Love me some Billy Connolly.
No, he's he's a younger guy, probably late 30s, early 40s. Has like a Kurt Cobain haircut with a Dave Grohl goatee. Yeah, and he was talking about this was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. He was talking about how everybody is offended about something now. And I'm offended.
I saw that. Yes,
I am offended, and you should respect that. No, being offended is a personal issue. What offends you doesn't necessarily offend me.
Right? Exactly. It's subjective, not objective.
Exactly. Being offended is a subjective state of mind, and like I said, what offends you doesn't offend me. You may take offense to the fact that I like Mel Brooks more than I do Monty Python. You may take offense to the fact that I think Blazing Saddles was better than Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Well, several years ago, and I may have mentioned this before in the show, several years ago I had a T-shirt with a huge mushroom cloud, and at the top it said Made in America. And at the bottom it said tested in Japan. I wore that one day, and it was one of those days where I had a level 12 hangover. I needed a coffee. I jumped up out of bed, threw a shirt on, grabbed a baseball cap, went down to the coffee shop.
And all the fucks that you had to give were lost somewhere.
Yeah, they were lost long before that. And I'm standing in line, and I'm waiting for my coffee, and I had this guy had to be about 75, 80 years old, obviously a World War II veteran. He looked over, and he was just going, he was just looking at me laughing. And I'm like, why is this old man laughing at me? And he goes, I like your shirt, son. And I looked over, and a young Oriental guy was just looking at me like, I would like to stab you in the neck with a pencil.
I can already tell where this is going.
and I'm like, all I could do, I didn't know what shirt I had on. I'm like, what is going on? And I looked down at my shirt, and I said, oh, yeah. He's like, are you ex-military? I said, yeah. You? He goes, World War II, son. He goes, nice shirt. And the Oriental guy he literally slammed his coffee down and walked out. It was offensive to him. It was hilarious to the. I didn't know I had it on. It was hilarious to the vet. He was there. He saw the humor in it.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll never be done again. We'll never use that against a society again. I hope not. Anyway.
No. And the best example I can give of something like that is when I first started selling cars, I had this old gentleman that would come in, and he never bought a car from me, but once he found out I was military, he would always sit at my desk. And when I say old, I mean like World War II era old.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all he would do. He would just come in. I think he used to be one of our old drivers or worked in the parts department several years ago or something, and now he just comes in, drinks coffee, and hangs out. But we'd have a customer on the lot who was driving, like a Toyota or a Honda or something. He'd lean over to me and he'd say, I swear to God, I would never buy and drive a vehicle that some yellow skin had their fingers on. Damn, dude.
Ooh.
And, I had to think about it. That was, as bad as it is to say, that was the norm. I fought in Iraq, and I've got a few select phrases and terms for the people that I was fighting against that other people might find offensive.
To that generation, the word Jap, Nip, whatever, it's not pejorative. It's just simply the way they described it.
Jap, Nip, Gook, all those, yeah. Yeah.
Well, even today, and back in World War II, back in World War I, Korea, Vietnam, the words that you used, we were in a war. We were in a battle with an enemy. And if you use those words, nobody found them offensive because that's the enemy. We'll call the enemy whatever we want to.
You dehumanize your enemy.
Now, today, we've got to the point where we have to respect our enemy. We have to call them by the politically correct name, and we have to – it goes back to someone asked me one time, and I tried to get into a political I tried to explain to them why to the victor go the spoils of war. It doesn't work that way anymore. Yeah. With it could. And I'll get to that in a minute. This dovetails nicely into why our current commander-in-chief thought he thinks we should have free oil right now. I get that. And it's a very simplified, I get that. To the victor go the spoils. But it's deeper than that, and you can't just do that. Mm-hmm. Because you defeat an enemy, you can't just completely destroy their culture like we used to.
Yeah.
There are some cultures that I will say could use to be destroyed, but we can't do that, and we won't. But Iraq. But a world condemnation will prevent us from doing that. And so we have to adapt to the way the status quo, the way things are.
Right.
Which we need to dovetail into politics.
Yeah.
He's looking at me like, okay.
Yep. No. I knew it was coming.
This is your bag? Yeah, I know. The Washington Post. There's a book that has recently been released. It is called Stable Genius, which is a reference to what President Trump called himself a few months ago. I'm a very stable genius. This book has some of the most credible people, one of them Mad Dog Mattis on record, former Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, all kinds of people that were in Trump's inner circle to begin with. Basically, I'm not going to say they're throwing him under the bus. They're just telling the damn truth.
I'm just going to interject real quick.
Go for it.
I really hope to God James Mattis runs for president this year just because I want to see the campaign Mad Dog 2020.
Well, George Washington had something to say about that. And you know what he said?
What's that?
The person that is best qualified and could be the best qualified person that should run for office is also the person that's smart enough to not want the job.
Yes.
Hence, Colin Powell, great president, he ain't doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Mad Dog Mattis, hell no, there ain't enough money out there to pay me.
I just want to see Mad Dog 2020 on a presidential banner.
Oh, yes, that would be rich. I would plaster my yard with a Mad Dog 2020. But basically, this is just actually recent post. This is from the Washington Post. They basically looked over a lot of notes and a lot of interviews from the upcoming book called Stable Genius. And one of the things that disturbs me is Trump's description of his generals. And here's the thing: this article, which comes in the Washington Post, it describes some things that Trump said, and his description boils down to this: "You're a bunch of dopes and babies." That was his quote to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, National Security Advisor, everybody sitting in a room during a meeting. What happened was Mad Dog Mattis and some senior members decided we're going to have Trump College. We're going to try and educate the president on a lot of things which he doesn't know, and there are a lot of things that he doesn't know. There are a lot of things that he still does not know. But they were trying to explain to him the situation that's going on right now, why we couldn't do things like, take all the oil whenever we take over an oil-producing country, why we had to abide by treaties and agreements set up by NATO, by other countries. And these are people, Jim Mattis, Gary Cohen, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, all these people were knowledgeable, intelligent, well-read people who knew the situation that was going on, and they knew that the president, they stuck around for one reason only, to try and keep the president from making bad mistakes.
Right.
And, you can only stop the village idiot from doing so much damage before he's going to do damage. This article goes on to say, and I would highly recommend someone to read it. The Washington Post. It goes along a timeline and tells what happens inside what they call the tank. The tank is basically what it says. It's a think tank. It's where the generals. It's not the Situation Room. It's a tank room where the generals, the various secretaries sit around and they try to come up with solutions to problems. It's a think tank. Exactly what it is. They were trying to. This was a turning point in Trump's presidency. They were trying to get him to appreciate America's traditional role and the alliances that we have with other countries,
right,
which he has since shunned many of. As the meeting goes on, according to one, it was kind of like watching somebody's eyes glaze over, like you'd eaten, it was like his eyes glazed over like a Krispy Kreme donut. Mm-hmm. And he started tweeting. He wasn't paying attention to what was being said because he thinks he knows more than everybody else. At one point, at various points, the Secretary of Defense, Mad Dog Mattis, wanted to get out. He wanted to stand up, but he was trying to educate the president. He was trying to do his job. He was trying to make this man see, here's what we've got to do, Mr. President. Here are the things. We have to abide by these treaties. We have to abide by these agreements. And basically, President Trump's response was, well, why? Why do I have to? I don't have to. I'm the president. And that seems to be his reasoning for everything. I don't have to. I'm the president. It's like a 3-year-old kid. I don't have to. I'm the king. I don't have to because blah, blah, blah. And he would not give reasons why he didn't, His main thing was this, and I took this away from this article, which is really, really terrifying. Okay, this is back a few years ago when Mad Dog Mattis was still the Secretary of Defense. And this whole episode has been documented numerous times, and it basically paints a picture of the moments and the effect that President Trump's comments and hostility had on the military and the national security leadership. Just before 10 a.m. on a summer Thursday, he arrived at the Pentagon, stepped out of the motorcade, went to the tank where the Joint Chiefs greeted him. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, which at that time was General Joseph Dunlord Jr. There was also Mad Dog Mattis, Patrick Shanahan, Defense Secretary, Deputy Defense Secretary, Vice President Pence, Secretary of State Tillerson. There was Secretary Cohen, Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, White House Chief Strategist Stephen K. Bannon. That's the devil in disguise. That's his Dick Cheney, if you will, really. And they were all sitting right there while this briefing's going on. Basically, they were trying to take him to school and school him on, okay, Mr. President, here's what you need to know. Here's what you need to understand. Now, Madison, Cohen, and Tillerson, they had decided to use maps, graphics, and charts to help keep him from getting bored, because the President of the United States has the attention span of about a 5-year-old. Okay. If you talk to him too long and he starts getting bored, he'll start tweeting. So what they did was they schooled him in a way that somebody who used to work in real estate would appreciate the value of U.S. investments abroad, because that's what we are. Our military bases are investments. They're investments in our security. Okay, we got a base over there. That's an investment that we won't get our ass bombed into oblivion. Excuse me. Well, anyway, as this goes on, Mattis gives a 20-minute briefing on the power of NATO, and as he goes along, he gets a message from Tillerson that says, not good. Trump's not going to like this one bit. Tillerson Bannon flashes back, oh, baby, this is going to be a fucking wild – he goes, if you stood up and threatened to shoot President Trump, he could not say the word post-war rules-based international order. It's just not the way he thinks. Trump thinks like a real estate mogul. He thinks we should be paid for these assets. We should be paid for this, which happens here in a few minutes. As we start talking about the bases and the fact that we're using our personnel to protect North Korea – he actually says, why are we not being paid for our services?
I got to correct you there. South Korea.
South Korea, I'm sorry. Why are we not – thank you. Why are we not being paid for protecting South Korea? Well, we should be getting paid. And they basically tried to explain to him, this is just not the way things are done, Mr. President. He appeared peeved by being schooled by these people. His attention span started bouncing, and he started interrupting everybody. And he heard an advisor say a word or phrase, and when he'd hear that phrase, he would seize on that, and then he would interject his take. For instance, the word base made him launch into say how crazy and stupid it was to pay for bases in some countries. Really? Because that's what they do with us. And Trump, he kept repeating what he heard from other people, but he had no original cognitive thoughts on his own. His basic theory was this: South Korea should pay for a $10 billion missile defense system that the United States built for it. The system was designed to shoot down any short and medium-range ballistic missiles from North Korea to protect South Korea and American troops. We have an obligation to protect troops that we send overseas to protect our interests. You see what I'm saying? So it wasn't just South Korean troops are protected. We're protecting our own troops too. Well, Trump said that they should have to pay for it. And he held on to that like a petulant little child over and over again. We should charge them rent, he said of South Korea. We should make them pay for our soldiers. We should make money off of everything. These are the exact words of President Donald J. Trump. They're in arrears, he says. We're owed money, and you haven't been collecting, as he points to the chairmen of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, like they're damn repo men. This is the mettle of a man who is now been impeached by the House of Representatives and is about to go on trial by the Senate. And to describe what's about to happen in Washington as a shit show would be the understatement of the century. It is about to be a shit show of epic proportions. And at the end of the day, what's going to happen is President Donald J. Trump is not going to be convicted of anything. But it's not because he's innocent. It's because the band of thugs, his gang, have decided that they're going to protect their boss. And that's what's going to happen. Now, if I sound like I'm anti-Trump, maybe it's because I am. I'm not a snowflake. I'm not a libtard. I'm really not even a Democrat anymore, to be quite honest with you. I'm not happy with my party. I think my party has gone too far to the left. That said, I'm for the rule of law and the rule of order. And President Donald J. Trump has thumbed his nose at both law and order. Cue the doink doink. But he's thumbed his nose at both. He doesn't care. Subpoenaed. I just won't answer the subpoena. His people are subpoenaed. Just don't go. He set a precedent for everybody in the entire United States. The next time someone subpoenas me to appear in court or to appear as a juror, I'm just not going to go. Let's see how fucking well that works next time. Let's see where I wind up after saying, no, I think I won't go today. I've been subpoenaed to be a juror on a grand jury. I don't think I'll serve today. I'm going to stay home and binge watch Game of Thrones instead. We'll see how fucking well that works.
It would have been better if you had said stayed home and watched Law and Order instead.
Yeah, well, whatever. But the point is, our very stable genius, which by the way is a book that's out. It's by Philip Tucker and Philip Tucker and Carol Leoning. It's called A Very Stable Genius: Donald J. Trump's Testing of America. You should check it out and read it with an open mind if you can. The Trump supporters won't, because it's almost cult-like status. The Kool-Aid has been drank, and nothing that he does will ever be perceived as being wrong.
Well, I never got offered any Kool-Aid.
Well, you weren't in line that day, I guess. I don't know. But the point I'm making is this. I've said in the past on past shows, he's done some things that I've agreed with, a few. But a broken watch is right twice a day. So I really can't say that there's any cognitive effort on his thought. I think some things just fell in his lap, and he said, let's do this, and they happen to be right. By and large, I think that this president, he is he's sending America on a very, very, very dangerous course. That said, the American electorate will probably reelect him in 2020.
I believe you're probably right about that.
And that just tells you what a shit show the electorate of this country really is. And that's my take on politics for the week. Inarticulate as it is.
Oh man, I really wish we had that little tune from Law and Order. That little ting ting.
Dun 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 dun.
Dun 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 dun. Dun. Yeah.
Trump is going down. Dun. Ass is going to jail. No. He will never. I don't think he'll be impeached. I don't think you'll ever see the inside.
It'll get shot down in the Senate.
It'll be shot down in the Senate, and that's the sad thing. They've all signed the oath book. The oath book is what you have to sign as an impartial juror during the trial of President whoever.
Well, there's
nothing impartial about a damn one of them.
No, there's not. Democrats and Republicans.
Absolutely right.
I will say there is total. How many Congress members do we have?
That would be 435.
Yeah, 435 Congress members. Out of 435, 5 of them might be impartial.
Possibly.
And it's the 5 nobody's ever heard of.
And of the 50 senators, none of them are impartial. None. Zero.
Yeah.
Zip. Now, here's going to be the curveball. And remember this. Since we're getting to the end of the program, remember this. Here's the curveball that no one is expecting, Daniel. And mark my words. His name is Chief Justice John Roberts. Mm-hmm. As the presiding judge in the trial, he's beholden to no one. His job's not on the line. He's not up for re-election, and he doesn't give a damn.
Right.
I agree with Alan Dershowitz on one level. This sets a bad precedent for the presidency, simply because I do fear that in future years this could be used as a tool. This could be used as leverage. This could be, we're going to impeach. Oh, we're going to impeach. We're going to impeach. But if you will look at the history of the United States in, over 200 years, there's only been 3 impeachments. So it's not like we use it every 4th year.
Right.
But that said, it could be used again. But I think Dershowitz is full of shit when he says that his role is simply to be an arbiter of the Constitution and protect the constitutionality and keep it from being – I think that's a crock of shit myself.
Again, the 435 Congress members that we have up on the Hill, maybe a handful of them actually give a shit about the Constitution.
What would be refreshing, what would be shocking, what would be wonderful is if all these people have said, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and then they get in there and they do the exact opposite. Because once it's time to cast that vote, there's nothing anyone can do. Let's say 45 people that are Trumpers, always Trumpers. They're right there. They're in his corner. Suddenly they hear the evidence and they go, no, man, I can't do this. I really can't do this. And they vote against him. That would be the shocker, that we actually have some congressmen and senators that have a conscience, that have morals, that feel a responsibility to the people who elected them to do the right thing. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be wonderful if it did.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, only time will tell. We just gotta roll the dice and wait and see now. And
it's about time to see.
It is.
This week we're going to get into it for the most part, and it won't conclude, but I think it's going to be probably about a 2.5, maybe 3 week trial.
Yep. So, and then we're definitely also going to be keeping our eyes on the situation in Virginia as that's unfolding.
That is really scaring me a lot because that's tipping towards, and people think I'm joking when I say this, it's tipping towards a civil war. It's that epic proportions.
And if shots are fired, we're going to have to be doing some replays for a while, or else I'm going to be broadcasting live on the scene because my ass is going to be there.
I'll go with you.
I'm not going to sit by and just let the boogaloo happen and me not be there.
But you're not from Virginia. See, if this was happening in the state of Alabama, I'd have more of a vested interest. But my vested interest is the Second Amendment.
My vested interest is the Second Amendment and the United States of America.
But I think Virginia, I think clearer heads are going to prevail at some point, and well, maybe not. I don't know. I'd like to say I would think that something would be overturned, but it hasn't happened so far. Virginia used to be for lovers. I guess now it's for snowflakes. I don't know.
Yeah. It's shit. I don't know. So
eloquently spoken, Daniel, as always. Eloquently spoken, sir.
I mean, no words. No words. They should have sent a poet.
Well, it's
to quote Seth MacFarlane.
It's like this. Between what's happening at the shit show in Washington, D.C., what's going on in Virginia, and what's happening all over the rest of the United States, these are chaotic times.
It is.
And if you have a firearm, you know what? I wouldn't be carrying it. I wouldn't open carry it. I would hide the damn thing.
Right.
I would put it up because you really don't want people to know that you've got a firearm until you need said firearm.
Right.
That's just my philosophy.
Yep. So we're running short on time. We're going to have to leave it there. Again, big shout out to the troops overseas, men and women serving overseas and on the home front. We
Sailors, yes.
Yes. We appreciate everything y'all are doing for us. Keep up the good work. Come home safe. We're all rooting for you here back phone. Phone home.
E.T. phone home.
Oh, man, I was doing good, and then right at the end, I just lost it. I couldn't word anymore. But this has been Two Beards Talking right here on Armed Radio. I am Daniel Sanders.
And I am DonnieJ.
And we do appreciate you all listening. Thanks, everybody.